Today we deal with some incidents which could sound quite odd and weird to our normal human mind. We have Elijah in the first reading. Prophet Elijah who approaches a widow who was collecting maybe some firewood to cook and prepare something for the family, and she says she has just enough to prepare for one meal, eat it and die. She has only little, and this prophet who had to understand people, on the contrary, demands food, just a bite. Maybe he was too starving, maybe it was too difficult for him to bear his hunger, and he says the meal of jar and the oil of jar that she has will never be empty. And she provides for Elijah, and it is said they ate as well, and the jar of meal was never empty, and the jar of oil never failed. She and he and her household ate for many days. Now what was supposed to last only for one meal is never getting emptied. In the gospel we see similar incident. When this Jesus sees the rich people put in large sums of money in the treasury, a widow who puts in just 2 copper coins, which is said equals to 1 penny, amazes Jesus. The moment Jesus sees it, he calls his disciples and says, "You know what? This lady, this widow has put in more than anyone else. She contributed everything she had. All she had to live on. So that must be really the last penny." Maybe the amount which others have put in was 1,000 times more. But something for us to understand, that God doesn't see our contribution in comparison to others. God doesn't see our contribution, whether the financial contribution, the contribution of time, or the contribution of the different things, helping hand, reaching to the poor, doing the work of volunteering. It's all seen on our own state of life. So there's no standard to decide something is good and bad when it comes to contribution. It needs to come from our heart. The third incident we have of the second reading, this letter to the Hebrews states, the high priest entered the sanctuary once in a year, not with his own blood, but Jesus enters this sanctuary and the heavenly sanctuary with his own blood. And what we see and what we know is Jesus gave his last blood that he had, and the water too, so that he was completely emptied, giving everything that he had. And what's the response? What's the fruit of all this? The widow of the first reading receives in abundance. The jar doesn't get empty, and the oil doesn't get emptied. We don't know about this widow who contributed to the treasury, but Jesus labels that contribution as the best of all. And what we see of Jesus is all that he gave is received in 100-fold. The resurrection. Whenever we give, and all that we have, not just based on comparison to our other friends, but when we give out of the pain, suffering, the little we have, that is abundantly blessed and returned to us. If you give of abundance, maybe it will help others, but it doesn't help your soul. When you give until it hurts. Give until it pains, so that it's being well received, not by others, but well received by God, and enriches your soul and pleases God.